Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and let's get back to the Thrinchies. I'm just loving them, and it's a lovely way for us to use our stamps but also to make sure they're not gathering dust. So we want to make sure that we can look back on these books. They don't take up much room, and we can look back on them and they give us a little bit of inspiration. So we've done 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and I adore them. And I've put a list of them all in my group on Facebook in an album as well, and they're also on YouTube. So we're going to do Thrinchie number 11. But before I start Thrinchie number 11, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the habit now of documenting colour schemes, because that way, if I'm ever stuck for inspiration, I can just look at the colour schemes I've got here that I've loved and maybe just repeat that or even mix it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use TE36, and I'm just going to document the colour scheme that I'm using today. So I'm going to use, I've got like a circle on here that is just blank, and I did this blank circle to indulge myself. Let's take this blank circle. You can use whatever you wish. And what I'm going to do is, today's colour scheme that I'm going to use on the Thrinchie is Twisted Citron, Salty Ocean and Picked Raspberry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the colours and I'm going to ink my, spit it out Tracy, my little circle up, again in the wrong place. So I just need to remember them things are there. So let's place this here and let's just add a little bit more ink. So I'm going to add Twisted Citron. I'm then going to take the Cracked Pistachio, and I'm inking this a little bit more because my Cracked Pistachio is a little bit dry. Cracked Pistachio, and then Salty Ocean. And I'm doing this because I spotted you can buy these blocks of like colour themes that are sold, where it gives you ideas for colour schemes. Well, we can do our own. And every time I think up a new colour scheme, I'm then going to add that to my little book, because there's another colour scheme I instantly want to add that I've used in a workshop. So let me just place that circle back. That little circle will be brilliant for the bouquet effect as well. So what I'm going to do, and I'm aware that the Thrinchie is going to take a little bit longer because I'm faffing like this, but I'm sure you don't mind. I'm then going to put a little pencil line under here, and then I'm going to document my colours. So it's Twisted Citron, we've got Cracked Pistachio, and Salty Ocean, and Salty Ocean. And then I've got another colour scheme that I love, which is this colour scheme here. So I'm going to document that. I'm going to put that underneath, and eventually I'm hopefully going to have a book of colour schemes, which then means that I'm never going to run out of colour scheme ideas. I can look back on my little book as if it was like a block of colour, and look back at all my colour schemes. So that's something else I'm going to do in 2025, and I hope it gives you an idea as well to maybe do the same thing or something similar. So what I'm going to do is start on my next Thrinchie now. Let's move this all out of the way. So it's Thrinchie number 11, and I'm going to use the, she says, pick it up, Tracy. I'm going to use my little tag, which is SS11, and I'm going to use the actual cutout piece. And let's move this out of the way. I've got everything in the way. So I'm going to take the twisted citron, add it direct to the stencil. I'm then going to use cracked pistachio, add it direct to the stencil. Oh, that's shown up nicely. And then I'm going to take Salty Ocean. So take the Salty Ocean again. Then I'm going to take the twisted citron and add a little bit down here. And then I'm going to take cracked pistachio and add this down here. Now you can see that I've got some colour on my non-stick craft sheet, so let's not waste that. She says, trying to reach for a piece of 4 by 6 inch cardstock. And now I've got the cardstock all pre-cut. I've actually got a little tray that I put it all in, so everything works really nicely. So I'm just going to mop that ink up, just so that we don't waste it, because why would we waste it? Because at the end of the day, when I do the next Thrinchie, I can add to this card, build a little bit more depth, and then I've got a background for a card. Perfect. So let's just grab a little piece of kitchen roll, she says, as she sticks her face in the camera. That's because I'm reaching underneath my desk. So just give that a little bit of a dry. And then let's take our, oh, for goodness sake, our tag. Now what you'll see is the tag, I'm only using part of it. You'll see that. So let's spritz the tag with some water. Of course, that water will go all over your non-stick craft sheet. And then what I'm going to do is just judge where my tag is going, which is around about there. Now, if you lift it up too soon, so let's just leave that there, it'll just go into the centre like so. So I'm just using my kitchen roll just to place that down and just to hold that in place, and I can press it a bit so that I get a little bit of bleed around the outer edge. But because I've got the kitchen roll, it's not going to bleed too much. But what I'm doing, can you, hopefully you might not be able to see that on camera, but that's still moving. I can still see the moisture still moving. It's still moving up here because it's automatic that when the tag starts to lift, it wants to move to the centre here. Do you like the sound effects? They're free, they are the sound effects. So just add that, and then I'm going to sort of peel this back. Can you see it moving? So I'm just going to peel that back like so. So just wonderful, just what I wanted. So I'm going to bring in this card, and I'm just going to dab these bits of colour onto this spare piece of card. Hey, we can't waste it. I adore this tag. Look at this tag in these colours. Yum, yum. But I just love that tag. So let's place that there. And then we can spritz this with some water as well, just so it's got a little bit of bleaching happening. And we'll just give that a little bit of a dry. There we go. And I'm going to grab my heat tool. Personally, I always like to recommend that you let things dry naturally, only because it keeps the intensity of colour. It stops you, when you put the heat tool on it, this, where it's quite wet, it will move that colour. Whereas if you let it dry naturally, it won't move the colour. Also, obviously, your Thrinchie will stay flatter. But we will give that a dry because Tracy's too impatient. If you don't want it to move, just hold your heat tool a little bit higher up. If you don't want that to move, you want to dry the card, but you don't want to move this colour because you're quite happy with the positioning of the colour. So I'm going to hold that heat tool a little bit higher up, just so that we don't move, that colour too much. I'm then going to dry from underneath, just so it dries the other way. Now that Thrinchie is quite wet. The Pink Frog Super Smooth card, 300 GSM, takes that ink beautifully. But even though it takes the ink beautifully, you still don't want to break the card down too much. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that that card is sturdy. And what I mean by that is it isn't so wet that it's limp. So we don't like limp card. So just beautiful. So what I'm going to do then, I haven't pulled anything out. And the reason I haven't pulled anything out is I've had my desk such a tip for about 3 days because of my new release. And honestly, I've had stuff everywhere. So I've tidied it up. So I just wanted it to stay tidy for a little while, that's all. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take the Franz TE3 Fern stamp set, TE3. I read the Franz there. It's called Fern TE3. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take the cracked pistachio. Oh, look, I've left that inside the packaging, which is wonderful when you keep your packaging. So I'm going to take this. I've also cut my ferns just so that I've got 3 separate ferns as well, but it's entirely up to you. I'm going to take cracked pistachio, and I've just said to you it's a very pale colour, particularly if it's dry like mine, but that doesn't matter. I'm just going to add some of those first generation and second generation. So first and second generation. And you'll see that's very pale at the moment. That's absolutely fine. It's there, but it isn't, if that makes sense. Just so that it's not too much, but it's there. And then I'm going to, I'll lift this up so you can see that. I'm then going to take the Twisted Citron. Take the Twisted Citron. Now the Twisted Citron is going on the colour. So it's going to be very tone on tone. There we go. Let me show you. Just very tone on tone. Now, I'm just going to dab my stamp before I go to the Salty Ocean, just so we've got the proper Salty Ocean colour. So I'm going to take Salty Ocean, first generation, second generation. And you can see with this colour, I'm not going to it because I don't want the ink pad to flood the stamp. So let's have first generation, second generation, third generation. So I'm going to give that stamp a little bit of a clean because I don't like to leave the oxides on there, particularly if I'm going to go to a VersaFine Clair. So let's move those out of the way. So then I'm going to take, where are you? I'm going to take the TE32 and I'm going to take this beautiful floral here on TE32. Don't ask me why I didn't get it out initially. I have no idea. You can tell my stamps are very well used. They need a clean, just so that they stick back onto the acrylic block. So let's just place this back. Do you like how I'm trying to be good for 30 seconds? So let's grab a spare piece of Pink Frog Super Smooth card, and I'm going to take a little bit of Twisted Citron and ink the floral with Twisted Citron. Can you see I'm pressing a little bit harder? That's only because my ink pads are a little bit on the dry side, particularly the paler colours. Cracked pistachio, so I'm going to add some cracked pistachio, and then I'm going to add some salty ocean. I'm then going to spritz this floral lightly with 1 spritz of water. And you can see the water because it goes all over your acrylic block. And what I like to do is just wipe that moisture off because my hands slip. That's the only reason why. I'm then going to take the floral and just stamp. So you've got that sort of watercolour background. Beautiful. You can also get a second generation if you wish. That's very pale, but you can get a second generation. It is almost there. Luckily, I only want 1 floral. Whoops. Even with nothing on my desk, I can still knock it over. I'm going to cut this card down just so that I'm not cutting out with loads of card in my way. Then going to take the floral and just cut that out, and I'm leaving a little bit of a white border, just so that it pops a little bit more. Now really, if I want to do anything else to this floral, it really is important that I either let it dry naturally or dry that with my heat tool, because there's moisture in there. So for instance, if I wanted to add a little bit of pencil work, I would have to be careful, because going straight on with the pencil is not a good idea, because you'll break down the card and the card will start to sort of come away, because you've got that moisture on there and you're going to try and scratch some colour on with your pencil. So just make sure that that card is dry. It really is important that that card is dry if you wanted to add any pencil work. I'm using Pergamano scissors, mainly because they've got a lovely point on them. You have to be careful because they're very sharp, designed for Pergamano parchment craft. But I love them because it makes it so easy to cut out those fine details. I've made the floral a little bit shorter, so let's make sure we can see that, just so I can add the floral here. Now I'm going to give that a little bit of a dry, so let's dry that, we'll hold that down. And what I've shown you here is that you've got a floral there that you can just leave like that if you wish. It's still beautiful and looks lovely as it is. I'm going to look at some pencils, but not to add too much. So let's have a look. So maybe a little bit of that, and just chartreuse and something a little bit darker. Now, I'm not going to sort of colour massively because I love the colour, but what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to use the Indigo Blue PC 901 just to add a little bit of darkness just to the floral, a little bit, just to give a little bit more. Now, personally, it's always better to colour than cut out, because then you're not fighting with the project like I am doing, trying to sort of hold that. So it's probably better if you don't do that, really. Just colour and then cut out, because you can see now I'm trying to hold the floral just whilst I colour. Not the easiest thing to do. Just add a little bit more depth down the stem. Not much, just a little bit of depth down the stem. I'm then going to come to light aqua and just blend a little bit of the... Now that irritates me because the pencil isn't sharpened, and I do like it sharpened, even if it's just a little bit, just so it's a little, I find it easier to use. So I'm just going to come in with a little bit of turquoise, and I'm not pressing on too hard, I'm just pressing very lightly with that colour. Just pressing lightly with the colour and just adding a little touch, a lot less than I would normally. So I'm just adding less of that colour. I'm then going to come into, did I tell you the colour? PC992 Light Aqua and Chartreuse 989, and spot the colour that Tracy uses quite frequently. I've already had to order another Chartreuse because I do start to panic if I haven't got my favourite colours. I think, oh, it's going to run out. How can I cope? There we go. So I'm just adding a little bit of that Chartreuse, and then what I'm going to do is just come in a little bit more and just blend a little bit of the dark colour. And you can see I'm sort of mainly leaving it sort of towards the top, so I've still got some of that watercolour, but just giving a little bit more of that depth. Just a little bit more, but not too much. Just to give a little bit of depth. Just come in with that aqua. Lovely colour the aqua is, it's really nice. I'm just going to bring a little bit of the aqua in here. A little bit of the aqua. Really nice colour the aqua is. And again, always remember with your pencils, don't come in too hard, too soon. And always remember to colour then cut. I cut it out, and as I cut it out, I thought, oh yes, I'll add some pencil work. That's standard me, but that isn't the right way to do it. Let's bring a little bit of the aqua into the stem. There we go. And then we'll just bring a little bit of the Chartreuse, which I just adore. And it automatically goes to that light colour. Again, you don't have to add the pencil. I just like the added depth. You don't have to add the pencil. You can just leave it in the watercolour effect. But the idea there is I've given you two methods then just to create your project with. I've given you two ideas that you can either keep the watercolour effect or you can add a little bit more depth as I am doing, but you don't have to add that depth if you don't wish. It's entirely up to you. A little bit more of the aqua. So on this one, it's a little less blended. That's the look I'm going for. So not quite as blended as usual, but that's the look I am going for. I'm then going to take my Posca pen, and by now, if you've watched me often enough, I often say, just let your project dry a little bit or rest a little bit, because those fibres, you've really worked them and you just want them to loosen a little bit, and then you can add your touches of white. So I'm using a Posca pen. This is a finer nib, PC-1MR, which refers to the nib. So I'm going to add a few sort of bits of pollen coming down into the darker area. A few little dots on here. Sometimes if you don't know where to add white touches, add a few dots instead. It's quite forgiving. Okay, so I've now got my floral that I'm going to add here. But firstly, I'm going to add a little bit of text, because I'm obsessed with text, and plus I do think it gives a beautiful finishing touch. So I'm actually going to use, which one am I going to use? I'm actually going to use the art backdrop, which is TE17, which is an A8 stamp. So I'm going to take this as is, and I'm going to grab the Salty Ocean, and I'm going to take a little bit of this background. I'm going to add this, so I'm going to add my floral this way. So I'm going to add a little bit of text. Now, you might say to yourself, well, why are you not sticking it down, Tracy, and then adding the text? That's because I want some text behind, so that it appears behind. Oh yes, I do like this with the bluey colour. Spit it out, Tracy. So let's add a little bit here. Oh, how nice. So add that. So I want a little bit there. I hope you talk to yourself. I talk to myself all the time. So I'm going to add a little bit here. Now let me see if I want to stick that down. There we go. We're now going to stick it down. Oh, do you know, I'm absolutely loving these Thrinchies. They're addictive, they're fun, no pressure, apart from my glue that's always bunged up because Tracy left it out, and because I'm such a professional. You don't catch professionals doing this. They fast forward this bit. What am I like? So let's just add a little bit of adhesive. I'm not going to stick down, as I said before, the actual sort of thin leaves, because it just gives a little bit of movement. So I'm coming off with this one. Let's just stick that down. So can you see it's extending? That's because, oh, you know what I've done? I've not done the black edge before I stuck this down. Oh, do you know, you can't get the staff. But what I want to do is this to stick out onto my book a little bit. So that makes me happy. Just look at that. Do you know, something simple like that just makes me so happy. Right. Now, of course, now let's just place that back. I do have to add a little cat because I'm slightly obsessed with the new release. So I'm going to add one of these little cats. Listen, you know what I'm like by now. So I'm going to add that little cat there. Now you're stamping onto oxide ink, so we need to remember that. I'm going to take my Nocturne ink and just add a good layer of ink, tapping probably more than usual for a smaller stamp, just because I'm stamping onto the oxide ink. So let's have you peering down here, little cat, like so. Do you know, I know January, some people say it can be a depressing month, but I've just loved, I think it's just because I've been doing these Thrinchies, I've absolutely loved it. Right, so we've got our little cat on there as well. Just love that, love that. Ouch. So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to add a little bit of shading. Just because you're doing a Thrinchie, it's not a rush job. You still want it to look professional. You still want a professional piece of work. So adding a little bit of shading to our lovely little cat. Try not to go there because I've got oxide. And then we're going to, let's do this first. Just touch that with a little bit of water, just so that that blends out lightly, but without me affecting the oxide too much. It just gives me a little bit of shading. Let's ground that little puddy cat. There we go. Just love that. Oh, it's just so nice. So then I'm going to take TE32, and the tag here coordinates with the tag in the background. So I'm going to take the little tag, I'm going to take my black ink. Make sure it doesn't drop off, because just ask me why I'm telling you that. I'm going to add the little tag there. I'm looking at so many different stamps now, I'm forgetting which one goes where. So I want the letter C. Pull this out, Tracy, it makes it far easier. I want the letter C. So on TE32, you've got the alphabet. Let's take the C. And I'm just going to add the little C to there. You don't need to press hard. There's no need to do that. And I'm going to add a little bit of Salty Ocean. Let's just make sure that that isn't grey, which it is. And I just want to add a little touch of this Salty Ocean, just coming in to the tag here. Just blend that out, it'll go slightly green, and then just bring that. Let's rinse that out, and then we can just blend the straight line out, just so it's got a little bit of that colour. We also want it to, you know, again, 5 seconds, and my desk is an absolute tip, and I can't find my micron pen. So I'm then going to sort of add a little bit of twine as if that's sort of connected. Then I'm going to add a little bit of shading just around the tag. And then what you do is you try and not get into a mess, and Tracy does anyway. So I'm just going to add a little bit of shading just around my tag. Just give that a little waft dry. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of my darker pencil, which was the indigo blue, just a tiny bit of it, a little bit of the aqua, just a little bit of the aqua, and then a little bit of the chartreuse. And you don't have to add much of the colour, you're just doing a light blend so that you get a slightly different look. So just a little bit of the aqua, a little bit of the chartreuse. There we go. And then I'm going to add some splatters, because Tracy loves her splatters. Makes me happy. Just clean up the area. And then don't put your black Posca pen on yet, but normally you would put your black Posca pen on first, but I'm a drip. But this is the background we created, which is lovely. So now you have to frantically look for your snippet book. Which one is that? Where's my Thrinchie book gone? Oh, here, underneath everything else. That's excitement for you. But just while that dries a little bit, I'm going to go back to this Thrinchie, for instance. So this was number 10, wasn't it? So then I can take my new stamp, TE36, and let's just grab the numbers 1 and 0. Let's grab another small acrylic block. Oh, why is the acrylic block the one that you get, never the one that you want? Let's grab a scrap of card. Doesn't matter what you do first. So let's have the black. Let's just stamp those down here. Now, I don't know whether, let's have a look. I think that inch punch is too big. Let's have a look. Push that down. You see, that's too big. Let's see if this might be a 3/4 of an inch, or nobody knows. It's got some, I can't even see. Let's grab. What does that do? This is still too big, but let's just have a look. Yeah, this is still too big, so I might have to cut them out. But if you wanted to, if that's still too big, so you see you've got the white edge, which, believe it or not, I actually quite like now. I actually like that white edge that it gives. But what you could do is use, so I think that's 3/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch, I don't know. Just test with you, or you can just cut it out. I'm going to leave that white edge. So I'm going to, that's why I didn't colour the outside of my product, because I knew that these numbers were coming. So I'm going to add number 10 here. Let's make sure it's number 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to add the number 10 here. Just put the adhesive in the centre, because then I can tuck the other one underneath. Let's just add this here, like so. So I can add it on top or underneath, on top, after all that. So I'm just going to add number 10 there, and then we'll just do one other, number 1, number 0. Let's do number 9. You can stamp it any old how, because it's been cut out or punched out. I've got a little mark on that number 9 there, a little bit of debris or something. We don't want that. There we go. So number 9. So just grab my punch again. I think I just got this from Amazon. It's a Fiskars one. And just punch this out. I do quite like having that white edge now. Isn't it funny how you do something, you quite like it? So number 9 now. And because I've added that on the outside edge, I'm not going to add it sort of in the same place. I'm going to add them in different places each time. I think I do need to get a new glue out because this is now irritating me. And it's got nothing to do with the bottle or the product. It's to do with Tracy Evans getting too engrossed in the process and not putting the lid on her glue. And then you have warmth in your room and that causes a problem. So I want mine. I'm going to add them in different places, I think, each time. No, I'm not. I'll play with my head. So I'm going to add number 9 there. So now I can go through my book and number the Thrinchies. So obviously this Thrinchie has taken a little bit longer, but that doesn't matter because I've shown you a couple of things. So now I'm going to take my card. Let's go and add the black round the outside edge. Because my Posca is now dry. So it's worked quite well. There we go. Then we can add our Thrinchie to our book, like so. So take the Thrinchie. Ooh. No, that's it. Let's get a new glue out. Can't be doing with that. Right. Oh, lovely. So just take the Thrinchie. Don't leave the lid open, Tracy. Let's just add this here like so. And I love the fact that the flower is slightly coming off the page. So my numbers on this one will be on this side. So number 11 will be put on this side. But I don't need to show you on that video because I've already shown you what I'm doing with these. So I'll add number 11 just here. There we go. Let's hold this up just so that you can see that. And that is Thrinchie number 11. And I haven't added touches of white to the cap because I do want in black. But what you can do if you want, you can add a little bit of shading just around the outside. And just add a little bit of shading, just a touch of shading, just on the outer edge, just a tiny touch. Let me lift that up. And that is Thrinchie 11 for you. So I hope you enjoyed that and you'll give it a go. The other thing we've forgotten is we just need to put a little touch of white on our tag. And if you want to add more, you can go to your little fern that you can see and add a few more touches of white as well. Should you wish, it's entirely up to you. I just love it. I absolutely love it. So I hope you enjoy making it as well. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.